Aloha, and welcome back to the Siren Circle. I'm Alicia Marie, and I am so glad you are here for episode 4. We are still in Mercury retrograde, but we are in the final days now. Mercury is going direct on March 20th, which is also the spring equinox. So we have this really powerful moment coming up where the retrograde fog is starting to lift at the exact same time that we cross the threshold into a new season. It is a powerful shift. That shift and that threshold, that is what we're talking about today. Today, we are diving into the wheel of the year and the sacred seasons. We are talking about the 8 sabbats, the seasonal celebrations that mark the turning points in the year. And we're going to especially deep dive on the spring equinox, also known as Ostara, because it is happening in just a few days on March 20th, and this is the perfect time to prepare for it. You don't have to be a witch or a pagan or any other title to celebrate the seasons. You don't have to follow a specific tradition or have it all figured out. Honoring the cycles of nature is one of the most ancient, universal practices that humans have engaged in across cultures and throughout history and time. The seasons affect us, the turning of the earth, the lengthening and shortening of the days, the cycles of growth and decay. We feel and experience all of it. And when you start to pay attention to those rhythms, when you align yourself with the natural cycles instead of fighting against them, something within you will shift. You feel more connected, more grounded, and more in tune with the flow of life. So today we are going to talk about what the wheel of the year is and why it matters. We're going to walk through all 8 of those sabbats, what they are, when they happen, and what each one represents. We're going to deep dive into the spring equinox and talk about its themes, its energy, its rituals that you can do to honor the powerful time of the year. And we're going to talk about how to create your own seasonal practices, even if you're just starting out. Throughout the year, we will be doing more episodes on each one of these sabbats as they come up. So this is just the beginning. Think of this episode as your introduction to the Wheel of the Year. But before we fully dive in, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by the Magic Siren. If you've been wanting to learn tarot and develop your intuitive reading skills, enrollment is still open for the next tarot workshop starting April 1st. Early bird pricing is available until March 20th. So if you've been thinking about it, now is the time. You can find all of the details at themagicsiren.com. And as always, listeners of the Siren Circle can enjoy 10% off any personal tarot reading, birth chart reading, or any other service. Just use the code Sirens Circle at checkout. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to start with the basics. What is the Wheel of the Year? Well, the Wheel of the Year is a cycle of 8 seasonal festivals or sabbats that mark the turning points of the seasons. These celebrations are rooted in ancient pagan and agricultural traditions, particularly from Celtic and Germanic cultures, but similar seasonal celebrations have existed in cultures all over the world throughout history. The wheel turns continuously. There's no beginning and no end, just cycles: birth, growth, harvest, death, rest, and rebirth. Over and over again, the wheel of the year helps us track those cycles and align ourselves with the rhythms of nature. Now, in modern times, especially if you live in a city or if you're disconnected from the land, it's easy to lose touch with these rhythms. We have artificial light, climate control, grocery stores with produce year round. We don't have to pay attention to the seasons the way that our ancestors did. But that disconnection comes at a cost. When you're out of sync with natural cycles, you can feel ungrounded, exhausted, like you're always pushing against the flow. The Wheel of the Year invites you back into the rhythm. It reminds you that there are times to plant seeds and there are times to harvest, times to be active and times to rest, times to celebrate and times to reflect. The 8 sabbats are divided into two categories: the solar festivals and the cross quarter days. The 4 solar festivals are tied to the sun's journey throughout the sky. These are the solstices and the equinoxes. The spring equinox is always around March 20th, and it's when the day and the night are equal and we're moving into longer days. The summer solstice is always around June 21st. It is the longest day of the year, the peak of light. The fall equinox is always around September 22nd. It's when day and night are equal again, and we're moving into longer nights. And then the winter solstice is always around December 21st. It is the longest night of the year. It's the peak of darkness. These 4 points are observable. You can see them happening in the sky, in the length of our days, and in the position of the sun. The other 4 sabbats are the cross quarter days. These fall roughly halfway between the solstices and the equinoxes, and they are tied to agricultural cycles: planting, first harvest, final harvest, and the deep rest of winter. These are Imbolc around February 1st, Beltane around May 1st, Lammas or Lunasa around August 1st, and Samhain around October 31st. Yes, that is what we now call Halloween. So you have 8 points on the wheel, and as the year turns, you move through each one, honoring the energy of that particular moment in the cycle. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but I'm not a farmer. I don't live off the land. Why does this matter to me? Here's why. These cycles aren't just about agriculture, they are about life itself. They are metaphors for what you experience internally. Spring is about new beginnings, fresh starts, planting seeds. Not just literal seeds, but seeds of intention, ideas, projects, or new chapters. Summer is about growth, expansion, vitality, being in full bloom. Fall is about harvest, reaping what you've sown, gratitude, and starting to release what no longer is needed. And winter is about rest, reflection, going inward, and letting things die so that they can be reborn. You go through these cycles in your own life all the time. Sometimes you're in a spring phase, full of new ideas and energy. Sometimes you're in a winter phase, needing to rest, to be quiet, and to let go. The Wheel of the Year helps you recognize where you are in the cycle and honor that instead of resisting it. It gives you permission to rest when it's winter instead of forcing yourself to be productive. It reminds you to take action when it's spring instead of staying stuck in hibernation mode. And here's something I love about the wheel: it's not strict. It's not saying you must celebrate this way or you have to follow these exact rituals. It's a framework, it's a guide. You can adapt to it in your own life, in your own beliefs, and your own traditions. I have woven elements from my ancestral roots into how I celebrate the seasons in my personal life now. My family didn't necessarily call it the Wheel of the Year, but we honored those cycles. We had traditions around certain times of the year, whether it was foods that we cooked, gatherings we held, different tarot readings we did for each other, rituals that we practiced. And now, as I've deepened my own spiritual practice, I've been able to see how all of those family traditions were their own way of honoring the turning of the seasons. You don't have to be pagan to celebrate the sabbats. You don't have to follow someone else's tradition. You can create your own. And that's what we're going to talk about: how to make this your own practice. So now that you know what the Wheel of the Year is and why it matters, let's walk through all 8 sabbats. I'm going to give you a brief overview of each one: when it happens, what it represents, and the key themes. We're going to focus most of our time today on the spring equinox since it's happening in just a few days, but I want you to have a sense of the full wheel. Throughout the year, we will be doing deep dive episodes on each sabbat as they come up. So if one of these really speaks to you, just know that we will be exploring it more fully when we get there. Think of this as your introduction to the wheel. So let's start at the beginning of the wheel. I mean, there really is no beginning or end, but most of us look at the new astrological year as the beginning of the wheel. So that's where we're going to start off. First, we have Ostara, the spring equinox. This is going to be around March 20th. This is where we are right now, and we're going to deep dive into this in just a few minutes. Ostara is the moment of balance. Day and night are equal. But from this point forward, the light is winning. The days are getting longer. Spring is truly here. This is a time of rebirth, renewal, fertility, growth, and new beginnings. It's when the earth is waking up, the seeds are sprouting, and life is returning. The themes are balance, growth, planting seeds, literally and metaphorically, and celebrating new life. Then we have Beltane, which is May 1st. Beltane falls always on May 1st, right in the heart of spring, moving into early summer. This is a fire festival, and it is all about passion, fertility, creativity, and life force energy. Beltane is traditionally celebrated with bonfires, dancing, flowers, and union. It's a celebration of pleasure, of the body, of sexuality, of creation. It is the peak of spring, so everything is in full bloom and everything feels alive and fertile. The themes are passion, creativity, union, fertility, and joy. It's one of the most celebratory sabbats on the wheel. We'll dive into Beltane when it comes up in a couple of months. Then we have Litha, the summer solstice. This is the longest day of the year, and it usually falls around June 20th or 21st. This is the peak of light, the peak of the sun's power. Everything is at its fullest expression. This is a time of abundance, vitality, power, and celebration. The earth is abundant, the sun is strong, and you're going to be called to step into your own power, to shine brightly, to celebrate what you've grown. But there's also a bittersweet quality to this day because from this point forward, the days start to get shorter. The light begins to slowly decline towards darkness. So it's a celebration, but it's also an acknowledgement that nothing stays at its peak forever. The themes are power, vitality, abundance, gratitude, and honoring the sun. Then we have Lammas. This always falls on August 1st. This is the first harvest festival. The grain is now ready. The first fruits are coming in. You're beginning to reap what you've sown. This is a time of gratitude, of recognizing your hard work, of celebrating the abundance that's come from the seeds that you planted back in the spring. But it's also a time of acknowledging sacrifice. The grain is cut down so that we can eat. There is a theme of death and transformation woven into this harvest. The themes are gratitude, harvest, sacrifice, and the first signs of the darker half of the year approaching. Then we have Mabon, which is the fall equinox. This usually falls sometime between September 22nd or the 23rd. This is the second moments of balance in the year. So day and night are equal again. But from this point forward, the darkness is starting to grow. The days are getting shorter. This is the second harvest, the final gathering before winter. It's a time of Thanksgiving, of taking stock of what you have, preparing for the darker months ahead, and it's also a time of release. We are letting go of what didn't serve us and what didn't come into fruition. The themes are balance, gratitude, harvest, release, and preparation. Then we have Samhain, October 31st, sometimes November 1st. This is Halloween. This is where Halloween comes from. But Samhain is so much more than costumes and candy and trick or treating. Samhain marks the beginning of the dark half of the year. The veil between the worlds is thin. This is the time where we honor our ancestors, when we acknowledge death, and when we face the shadows. In the cycle of the year, this is the death point. The earth is going dormant, the leaves have fallen, everything is dying back. But death is not the end, it's part of the cycle. Death leads to rebirth. Samhain is a time of honoring the dead, divination, shadow work, and releasing what needs to die, so we can trust the darkness. The themes are death, ancestors, the veil, shadow work, and endings that lead to new beginnings. We will definitely be doing a deep dive on Samhain when it comes around in the fall, because this is a very powerful and misunderstood Sabbath. Then we have Yule, which is the winter solstice. This always happens around December 21st or the 22nd. And this is the longest night of the year. This is the peak of darkness. But Yule is not a sad or scary Sabbath. It is a celebration. Because even though this is the darkest night, from this point forward, the light is starting to return. The sun is being reborn. The days start getting longer again, even if it's just by a minute or two. Yule is about rest, reflection, the return of light, and hope. It's a time to go inward, to be quiet, to honor the darkness while also welcoming the light that is coming. Many of the traditions that we associate with Christmas, evergreen trees, lights, gift giving, feasting, actually come from ancient Yule celebrations. The themes are rebirth, of light, rest, reflection, hope, and honoring the cycles of death and rebirth. And finally, we have Imbolc, which is February 1st. This is right at the beginning of February. It is the depths of winter. It's not necessarily about winter, though. It is about the first stirrings of spring. It is the moment when we start to feel that shift. The days are getting just a little bit longer. There's a sense that the light is returning, even though it's still cold outside. It's essentially a fire festival in the middle of winter. It's about tending the flame, keeping your inner fire burning, even when it is still dark and cold outside. The themes of Imbolc are purification, inspiration, new beginnings, and hope. It is a time to cleanse your space, set your intentions for the year ahead, and to tend to your creative spark. We will do a full episode on Imbolc next year when it comes around again. So, those are the 8 sabbats, 8 moments in the year when we pause and honor the turning of the wheel. 8 opportunities to align yourself with the cycles of nature and the cycles of your own life. You don't have to celebrate all of them. You don't have to do elaborate rituals. But even just acknowledging them, even just noticing, oh, it's the spring equinox today, or oh, we're at the peak of summer, that awareness alone can shift something in you. All right, so let's talk about the spring equinox, also called Ostara, because it is happening on March 20th, and it's one of the most powerful moments in the entire wheel. The spring equinox is an astronomical event. It is the moment when the sun crosses the equator and the day and night are exactly equal in length. 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness. Perfect balance. But from this moment forward, the light is winning. The days start getting longer than the nights, and we start moving out of the darkness of winter and into the light of spring and summer. You can feel this shift. Even if you're not paying attention to the sky or the calendar, your body knows. There's more energy, more vitality, more life force moving through you. The world is waking up, and so are you. The name Ostara comes from the Germanic goddess Istra, a goddess of spring and fertility. And yes, this is where we get the word Easter. Many of the symbols that we associate with Easter, eggs, rabbits, and flowers, are actually ancient spring equinox symbols that got absorbed into Christian traditions. Eggs represent new life, fertility, potential. The egg contains everything needed for life to emerge. It's the perfect symbol for this time of year. Rabbits and hares are symbols of fertility and abundance. They reproduce quickly, and in the spring, they're everywhere. They're hopping through the fields and the gardens. Flowers, especially spring flowers like daffodils, tulips, and hyacinths, represent beauty, growth, and the earth coming back to life. Seeds represent potential. What you plant now will grow throughout the spring and into the summer. The themes of Ostara are balance. Day and night are equal. Light and dark are in harmony. This is a moment to find balance in your own life between work and rest, giving and receiving, action and stillness. There's birth and renewal. The earth is being reborn. Spring is here. This is your opportunity to shed the old and step into the new. What version of yourself is ready to emerge? Growth and new beginnings. This is a planting season, both literally and metaphorically. What seeds are you planting? What intentions are you setting? What do you want to grow in your life over the next 6 months? Let us know in the comments. I would love to hear it. Then there's fertility and creativity. This isn't just about literal fertility. It is about creative fertility. What do you want to create? What ideas are ready to come to life? What projects have been dormant all winter that are now ready to grow? And there's hope and optimism. Winter is over. The light is returning. There is a sense of possibility in the air. Things that felt stuck or stagnant can now start moving again. Ostara has this fresh, innocent, playful energy. It's like the energy of a child, curious, excited, hopeful, and open to all of the possibilities. This is not a heavy sabbat. It's not about deep shadow work or releasing or mourning. It's about celebration. It's about joy. It's about feeling alive again. And I think we need that, especially after the heaviness of this very long winter, especially after a Mercury retrograde in Pisces, where everything felt foggy and emotional. Ostara is like a breath of fresh air. It's permission to lighten up, to be hopeful, and to believe that good things are coming. Because guess what? They are. This is also a time when your energy naturally starts to increase. You might feel more motivated, more inspired, more ready to take action. If you've been struggling to get things done or feeling a little bit sluggish, the spring equinox energy can help shift that. But remember, don't force it. If you're still in a winter energy, if you're still needing to rest, honor that. The seasons are a guide, not a rule book. You might be moving through your own personal winter, even though the external season is spring, and that is okay. But if you're ready to move, if you are ready to plant seeds and start new things, Ostara is the perfect time to do it. So what should you focus on during the spring equinox? Well, first, setting intentions for the next 6 months. From now until the fall equinox, the Earth is in active growing phase. What do you want to grow during that time? What do you want to create, build, manifest, or experience? Then there's planting seeds, literally or metaphorically. If you have the ability to plant a garden, this is the time. Even if it's just a pot of herbs in your windowsill, planting something and tending to it over the next few months is a beautiful way to work with this energy. And if you can't plant literal seeds, plant metaphorical ones. Start the project. Take the first step. Send the email or make the move. Then there's cleaning and clearing out your space. Spring cleaning is a real thing, and it is rooted in this seasonal energy. Clear out the old, the stagnant, the things that have accumulated over the winter. Make space for the new energy to come in. Then there's balancing your life. Since Ostara is about balance, this is a good time to look at where you're out of balance. Are you working too much and not resting enough? Are you giving too much and not receiving enough? Are you in your head all the time and not in your body? Use this time to recalibrate. And finally, celebrating and having fun. Ostara is playful, it's joyful, it is not all serious ritual work. Go outside, enjoy the flowers, feel the sun on your face, and celebrate being alive. All right, so let's talk about some specific things that you can do to honor this spring equinox. You can try a sunrise ritual. Wake up early on March 20th and watch the sunrise. Greet the sun as it rises. This is the return of the light, and being present for it is powerful. You can do this silently, or you can speak a prayer or an intention, something like, I welcome the light, I welcome new beginnings, I am ready to grow. And if you miss this on March 20th, it's okay. You can do it that whole first week of spring. You could plant something. Like I mentioned, planting seeds is the ultimate Ostara ritual. If you can, plant flowers, herbs, or vegetables. As you plant, speak your intentions into the soil. For example, as this seed grows, so does my creativity. Or as this plant blooms, so does my abundance. If you can't plant outside, get a small pot and plant something indoors. The act of planting is the magic. You could decorate with spring flowers. Bring fresh flowers into your home, daffodils, tulips, hyacinths, whatever is blooming wherever you are. Let their beauty and their life force fill your space. You can color eggs. Yes, like Easter eggs, but do it with intention. As you color each egg, infuse it with something that you want to create or call in. You can even write words on the eggs: abundance, love, creativity, or joy. Then display them on your altar or around your house. You can create a spring altar. Set up a small altar or a sacred space with symbols of spring, like flowers, eggs, seeds, pastel colors. You can use images of rabbits or birds. You can even include candles like yellow, green, pink. You can always use white. They all work well for Ostara. Spend a few minutes at your altar each day, connecting with the energy of the season. Spring cleaning is also a ritual. If you clean your space, do it with intention. As you clean, you can visualize yourself clearing out old energy, old patterns, or old stories. Open the windows, let the fresh air in, and burn some incense to cleanse the space energetically. Make it a ritual, not just a chore. You can also do a balance meditation. Since Ostara is about balance, do a meditation where you visualize yourself standing at the center point between light and dark, giving and receiving, action and rest. Feel into what balance means for you in that moment. And I'll upload a balance meditation over on our Patreon for all of our free members as well, so go and check that out. You can also go outside and connect with nature. Walk barefoot in the grass, sit under a tree, notice what's blooming, feel the warmth of the sun. Oh, that's my favorite thing. The earth is alive right now, and connecting with it physically is one of the most powerful things that you can do. One tradition that I've carried from my family into my own Ostara celebrations is having a big meal around this time of the year to celebrate spring. I eat fresh vegetables, fresh herbs, foods that feel alive and vibrant, like asparagus, fresh greens, lemon, bright flavors. I'll set the table with flowers and I invite people over if I can, or I just sit with the meal myself and I give thanks for the abundance of the earth. Food really is magic, and sharing food is also magic. And there's something about eating what's fresh and in season that really connects you to the cycles of the earth in a very tangible and magical way. In my family's ancestry, there's also traditions around planting and the first harvest of the year. This is celebrations of the land providing, of seeds turning into food, of life continuing. These traditions don't have the same names or structures as the Wheel of the Year, but the essence was still the same: honoring the earth, honoring the cycles, and giving thanks. So, as you explore Ostara and the sabbats, I encourage you to think about your own lineage. What did your ancestors celebrate? How did they honor the seasons? You might find that you're connecting back to something that is already in your blood. All right, so that's the spring equinox. That's Ostara, a time of balance, rebirth, growth, and new beginnings. It is a time to plant seeds and celebrate the return of light. All right, so now that we've talked about the Wheel of the Year, we've walked through all 8 sabbats, and we've done a little bit of a deep dive on the spring equinox, let's talk about how you actually create your own seasonal practices. Because here's the thing, there is no right or wrong way to do these things. You don't have to follow a specific tradition, you don't have to do elaborate rituals, you don't have to have a ton of tools or knowledge or even experience. Honoring the seasons can be as simple or as complex as you would like it to be. The point is to just pay attention, to notice, and to align yourself with the natural rhythms instead of living like the seasons don't exist. So, the first step is just awareness. Start noticing the seasons. Notice when the light changes, notice when the temperature shifts, notice what blooms and what's dying back, what animals are active. If you live somewhere with distinct seasons, this is so much easier. You can feel the winter turning into spring, summer turning into fall. But even if you live somewhere with more subtle seasonal shifts, the changes are still happening. The sun is still moving through the sky, the days are still getting longer or shorter. Just start paying attention to those things. And as you pay attention to the external seasons, also pay attention to your internal seasons. Notice when you're in a spring energy, full of new ideas or really motivated. Notice when you're in a summer energy, when you are expanding and social, feeling at your peak. Notice when you're in fall energy, ready to release, feeling very reflective. And notice when you're in winter energy, needing rest, going inward, and letting things die. Your internal seasons won't always match the external seasons, and that is also okay. But noticing both helps you understand yourself as well as your needs better. You don't have to celebrate all 8 sabbats either, especially not right away. That can feel extremely overwhelming. Instead, pick 1 or 2 that resonate with you and start there. Maybe you're drawn to the solstices because they're the peak moments of light and dark. Maybe you're drawn to the equinoxes because they're more about balance. Or maybe you love the energy of Samhain or Beltane. Start with what calls to you. Celebrate that one fully. Learn its energy. Build a relationship with it. And then, if you want, you can add more sabbats over time. I started with just the solstices and then the equinoxes because they felt most tangible to me. I could see them happening in the sky, and over time, I added all of the cross quarter days and I learned more about them and felt called to honor them. There is no rush. The wheel is going to turn every year, and you will get another chance. Your seasonal practice doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be really, really simple. Lighting a candle and taking a few minutes to acknowledge the season, that is enough. Going outside and spending some time in nature, that is enough. Cooking a meal with seasonal ingredients, that is enough. Journaling about what you're releasing or what you're calling in is also enough. The magic isn't about how complicated the ritual is, even though social media might make it look that way sometimes. The magic is in the intention, it's in the awareness, it's in the act of pausing and saying, I see you, season, I honor you, and I align myself with you. Some of my most powerful seasonal celebrations have been the simplest ones. Sitting outside at a sunrise during the solstice, planting seeds during the spring equinox, lighting a candle on Samhain, and speaking to my ancestors. Simple doesn't mean less powerful. Sometimes simple is the most powerful. You also don't have to stick to one tradition. The Wheel of the Year is commonly taught with Celtic and pagan traditions, but you can blend that with your own culture, your own background, your own spiritual practices. Get creative, have fun with it. Like I mentioned earlier, I weave in traditions from my ancestors, from my Italian side, from my African roots. I cook foods that my family cooked. I honor practices that were passed down, and I blend the old with the new. Maybe you celebrate the spring equinox, but you also celebrate Easter or Passover, and that's beautiful. They're all honoring the same seasonal energy, just in different ways. Maybe you're Christian or Buddhist or even atheist, and you're not sure if you can celebrate sabbats. You absolutely can. Honoring the cycles of nature isn't tied to any one religion or belief system. It is universal, it is human, it is natural. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and create something that feels authentic to you. Think about what you love, what brings you joy, what's meaningful to you. If you love cooking, make your seasonal practice centered around food. Cook seasonal meals, make recipes that honor the energy of each Sabbath. If you're an artist, create art for each season. Paint the colors of fall or sketch the flowers of spring. Let your creativity be your ritual. If you love being in nature, make your practice about spending time outside. Hike to watch the sunrise on the solstice. Collect flowers on Beltane, or sit with the trees at the equinox. If you're a writer, journal through the seasons. Write about what each Sabbath brings up for you. Write intentions, release lists, or reflections. Your seasonal practice should feel like you. It should feel nourishing, not a chore. It should feel like something that you look forward to, not something that you have to force yourself to do. Some people love celebrating the Sabbats with community. Gather with friends, host a seasonal dinner, do a group ritual, and I think that's absolutely beautiful. Other people prefer to celebrate alone. Have a quiet, personal ritual. You don't have to explain or perform anything for anyone. And I think that's beautiful too. There is no right or wrong way. If you want to involve others, invite people over for a seasonal gathering. It doesn't have to be a formal ritual. It can be a meal, it can be a bonfire, even a walk in nature together. You're still honoring the season. And if you want to celebrate alone, you can honor that too. Some of the most sacred moments happen in solitude. And if you have kids or family members who aren't into the witchy or woo woo stuff and you still want to honor the seasons, you can do it in ways that feel accessible to everyone. Decorate the house with seasonal flowers, bake seasonal treats, go on nature walks, decorate the Christmas tree, talk about what's happening in the world around you. You don't have to call it Ostara or Samhain if that doesn't resonate. You can just call it celebrating spring or celebrating fall or I'm honoring this new season. One of the most beautiful and powerful things that you can do is track the wheel over time. Keep a seasonal journal where you write about each Sabbath, what you did, how you felt, what was happening in your life. Over the years, you will start to notice patterns. Maybe every spring equinox, something shifts in your relationships. Maybe every winter solstice, you go through a period of deep reflection. Maybe every Samhain, something ends and something new begins. The wheel is a cycle, and as you move through it again and again, each time you will come back to a particular Sabbath where you are not the same person that you were the year before. You've grown, you've changed, and seeing that evolution over time is really beautiful. I look back at my journals from past spring equinoxes, and I can see how much has shifted. What I was planting as seeds 5 years ago has bloomed into my life now. What I released has made space for new things to grow. And the wheel keeps turning, and you keep turning with it. And finally, be flexible with yourself. You are not going to celebrate every single Sabbath perfectly. You're going to miss some, you're going to forget some, you are going to be too busy or too tired or just not in the mood, and that is okay. The seasons don't stop turning just because you didn't do a ritual. The earth keeps spinning, the wheel keeps moving. If you miss a Sabbath, you can honor it late, or you can just acknowledge it in a small way and move on. You can skip it entirely and catch it next year. This is not about being perfect, it is about being present. And some years, being present looks like a full ritual with candles and offerings and intention setting and all kinds of fun things. And some years, being present looks like just noticing, oh, today's the equinox, and taking a moment to breathe. Both are so valid. So that's how you create your own seasonal practice. Start with awareness, pick one or two sabbats to focus on, keep things simple. You can blend traditions, make it personal, involve others or don't. Track the wheel over time, and just be flexible and forgiving with yourself. The seasons are always here, the wheel is always turning, and whenever you're ready to step into the rhythm, it is always going to be there waiting for you. All right, so let's bring all of this together. The Wheel of the Year is a cycle of 8 sabbats that mark the turning of the seasons. We have the 4 solar festivals, the spring equinox, the summer solstice, the fall equinox, and the winter solstice. And we have the 4 cross-quarter days, Imbolc, Beltane, Lammas, and Samhain. Each sabbat has its own energy, its own themes, its own invitation. And throughout the year, we will be doing deep dives on each one of those days as they come up. So if you loved learning about Ostara today, just know that we will be exploring Beltane in just a couple of months and the summer solstice after that, and so on and so forth as the wheel turns. We talked about the spring equinox, Ostara, happening on March 20th. This is a time of balance, rebirth, growth, and new beginnings. It's when the light returns, when the earth wakes up, and when seeds are planted. This is your moment to set intentions for the next 6 months, to clean and clear your space, and to celebrate being alive. And we talked about how to create your own seasonal practice. Start with awareness. Pick 1 or 2 sabbats to focus on. Keep it simple, make it personal. There's no right or wrong way to do this, just your way. So here is your practice for the week. Honor the spring equinox on March 20th in some way. Even if it's just lighting a candle and taking a moment to acknowledge the shift. Even if it's just going outside and noticing what's blooming. Even if it's just setting one intention for what you want to grow over the next 6 months. The seasons are speaking. The earth is moving through its cycles, and you get to choose whether you want to move with it or against it. And I invite you to move with it. Now, next week, we are talking about something really big. Neptune just entered Aries on January 26th, and it is going to be there for the next 14 years, all the way until 2038. If you follow me on TikTok or on YouTube, you know that I've talked about this already. And this is a massive astrological shift. It's going to affect all of us on a collective level. And I said we're going to talk about it, so we are going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what Neptune represents, what Aries energy is, and what it means when these two come together. We will explore how this transit is going to reshape our dreams, our spirituality, our creativity, and our collective vision for the future. This is a generational transit, and understanding it is going to help you navigate the next decade and a half with more clarity and purpose. So make sure you tune in for that. It is going to be a big one. Thank you so much for being here in the Siren Circle. I am so grateful that you were on this journey with me. I can't believe that this is already episode 4. If you're enjoying this podcast, please subscribe and maybe share it with somebody who would also enjoy this podcast. And remember, you can always find me at themagicsiren.com if you want to book a tarot reading, a birth chart reading, or join the next workshop. Until next week, honor the seasons, trust the cycles, and celebrate the return of light. I'll see you next Sunday. Mahalo.